Okay, hi guys. I'm back with a new video in the biopsy interpretation series. So today I'm going to start with the colonic biopsies, or if I should, of course, it's the colonic biopsies today, but then the GI system and the biopsies. Before that, we finished with the liver biopsies. So today I will be very short lecture where I would be just telling you some general points about interpretation of a colonic biopsy. After this, I'll be taking some benign lesions which you commonly encounter. Then I'm going to be taking some pre-malignant colonic lesions, and then maybe I'll be moving to gastric lesions and esophageal lesions and oral lesions. So that way we can cover up our GIT. Whatever points I'm going to tell you today are important in both for you as a pathologist when you're practicing, as well as for you when you are going to be sitting in your exam. Sitting in your exam, this thing will help you. I'm just adjusting my camera a bit. So this will help you when you have a spotter as a colonic biopsy, or you will when you are giving your grand viva for these slides. That is where this is going to help you. And of course, in the routine practice, these are very common problems that you face when you are interpreting a colonic biopsy. Now, see, I just have few images because there are a lot of books, lot of textbooks. I used to go for Sternberg, and then you have bigger reference books that you can go for to read. And there's a biopsy interpretation series which was published by Springer by various authors in on various topics. That is also very good. So if you can get your hands on them, some of them are available online, some of them you have to buy. Some are free and some you have to buy, and they're online books. And they're small books where you get a complete biopsy interpretation of one particular system. So if you can buy that, I had a few myself, but they are old now. So if you can buy that, then that would be very good for you. Otherwise, I'm trying to discuss as much as I can. So today, see, the problem when you receive a colonic biopsy, I'm talking about a biopsy, not a dissection specimen, is that they are fragmented, unoriented, or not in good quantity. This will happen not in very higher centers, but in the regular centers, this is how you're going to get. Any mucosal biopsy from the GI system, we prefer that the clinician orients the mucosal surface on a Whatman filter paper number 1 and then sends it to the lab for processing. That way, when the mucosal surface is present on the upper side, where the clinician tells us that the mucosal surface on the upper side and the lower side, or he puts it face down and says mucosal surface is the one which is facing the paper. So that way, when we process, that is how we align our biopsy. But ye hota nahi, this doesn't happen very commonly at a lot of places. One thing that some labs do is they have those micro dissecting magnifying glasses, microscopes, where you can see the villi in a well-oriented, in a good mucosal biopsy. And then when you are grossing it, you are grossing it under that magnifying glass and then you orient it yourself. However, in most of the labs, you don't have this facility. So you have to go with your gut and, do as is available. So the biggest problem that comes with a colonic biopsy is that they are small or inadequate amount. So when this biopsy will come on your slide, there are high chances that the alignment of the layers of mucosa, submucosa, the muscularis and the serosa may not be well maintained. Sometimes the cutting of such fragmented biopsies such that some part of the gland is going in the lamina. You think that it'll look like an invasion, but it is not. So all those points I'll show you. So keep in mind when you are interpreting a slide with a colonic biopsy or any gut biopsy, you need to count the number of fragments that the slide has and match it with what the gross tells you. Then at low power, you start scanning your slide and looking for architectural changes, normal versus abnormal areas, any specific, organism that you can see, any area of ulceration, all that you have to see in the lower power. And then you identify your region of interest where you find maximum changes going on, and then you go to a higher power. Now today what I'm going to be telling you are just some problems that you face with when you see the biopsy, and then next time when I'm taking benign lesions, I'm going to be telling you specific features of those benign lesions, and then when I take the malignant lesions, I'm going to be telling you specific features of those malignant lesions. Okay. So, for instance, this is one a mucosal biopsy, colonic biopsy of a case which was diagnosed with a colorectal carcinoma. It was a old man. Now, the biopsy was done in an area of the colon where there was some suspicious thickening. Okay, so they just took a biopsy of that area just to see, is it a residual tumor? Now, if you see very clearly, if I look at this gland without the back history, all these are, crypts in the colon. And we all know the normal architecture of the colon. I'm not going into the detail of that right now. So here you see there is a lot of high NC ratio, prominent nucleoli. Okay, in fact, there's a big eosinophilic nuclei also over here if you see. Then you see stroma showing plump cells and a lot of like kind of an edema. Then you see a lot of eosinophils which are not only causing like going inside, but so this is kind of like a cryptitis over here. And then what they are forming is a eosinophilic cryptapsis. Now, if you are not aware of the history that this case has had radiation therapy post a diagnosis which was done before, you will, and look at the mucosa, there are no goblet cells, there are no tall columnar epithelium, everything is cuboidal flattened with high NC ratio and pleomorphism. So all this is pleomorphic hyperchromatic. I will not blame you if a person who does not have the history calls it dysplasia and high grade dysplasia. And why not cancer? Because there is no, in this image, there is no definite evidence of invasion. There is lamina surrounding these glands. And when a gland in a section is coming with its lamina, it is in, supposing say the submucosa or the muscularis mucosa, you see a gland with lamina in your section, it is mostly cutting, embedding. It is not an actual invasion. That I'm going to show you in the further slides. So if you don't have the history, you might call it, see there's eosinophilic cryptitis. So you might call it maybe a long-standing active IBD with high-grade dysplasia. But if, so here I want to show you the pleomorphism in every biopsy. You do not need to label it directly as a dysplasia. Go back to the history. This is nothing but radiation-induced changes. And this is quite common after the treatment of colorectal carcinomas through radiation and chemo. So this is nothing. This is just benign epithelial cells and radiation effect. So you don't have to do anything. Just continue with the treatment. So do not give it as cancer or dysplasia to the surgeon. So this is one pitfall. Okay. Similarly, there's a polyp. Now I told you whenever you look at a biopsy, पहले low power पे examine करो, then go to the higher power. Because with gut biopsies or liver biopsies, endometrial biopsies, or you need to see the entire architecture, and very commonly you see the normal area with the abnormal area. So here we get a case of a polyp, probably a hyperplastic polyp at this power maybe, because over here you can see, tall villi-like structures, some cystically dilated with mucin. This is a muscle, the muscularis maybe, mucosae, I'm not very sure. And then you see these small islands of crypts, glands, whether it's malignant or not, you cannot see because it is low power. But then you see this going deep from the surface, deep inside. You can see this very clearly. Okay. So this is in a way invasion. So a polyp, if only shows dysplasia in the lining mucosa, becomes an adenoma. And when it shows invasion, becomes a carcinoma. Please remember, adenoma is a polypoidal structure, sometimes flat because there are flat adenomas also, with lining epithelium showing dysplasia. The moment there's invasion in the muscularis or the submucosa, they become carcinomas. So that is another point that you need to take care of. And this is the benign polyp. This is the malignant part which has transformed. So this is from a paper. None of these images are mine. So they were, since it's a paper, so they were doing some research. That's how you publish a paper. So they found the role of MMP9, which helps in formation and dissolution of this matrix in any place of the body. There's a group of MMP proteins. And the role of MMP, if you've read your Robbins, is there implicated in metastasis, how tumors tend metastasize. So they found out in that presence of MMP9 will digest the surrounding lamina, the stroma, and help in invasion of the cells. So they just wanted to test that theory in a polyp which is showing invasion, whether that is true or not. And yes, they saw presence of MMP9 brown color in the area where it is converting into a cancer. So this is just for you. What is more important is again a low power examination. You see a lot of images are low power because colorectal, you need the carcinoma, the pleomorphism, everything will be very evident. What you need to see is the transition of normal to abnormal. That is how your sections on crossing should be. If it is not a biopsy, and if it is a biopsy, then you are lucky if you get this transition. That helps you in diagnosing कि okay अभी तक ये polyp चल रहा है यहाँ पे invade करना शुरू कर दिया, and then it becomes a carcinoma. Okay. Similarly, see, there's a point this is again directly from the article where they say that an author drew attention to a technical limitation that fragmented specimens with absence of muscularis propria may lead to misinterpretation and interobservation. As I said, when you are diagnosing a colorectal carcinoma, two things, invasion and submucosal invasion. Both are very important. Submucosal, there are a lot of Kikuchis and Kodo, there are a lot of classifications that you follow in giving the depth of invasion in the submucosa. Submucosal invasion means that supposing if this is your lining, the epithelium, then this is your lamina propria, then this comes the submucosa, then here is the muscularis propria, and here is the serosa. So how much, and this was the tumor, so how much of the submucosa has been invaded? This is the submucosa. Okay, so the depth of invasion of submucosa, so they grade it as SM1, SM2, SM3. SM3 is somewhere just above the muscularis propria. SM1 is somewhere just starting of the submucosa, and anywhere in between is SM2. This is the epithelial part, epithelial lining. Okay, this is, I'm sorry, the writing is very bad, but this is the epithelium. Okay. So how much of this tumor is going into the submucosa? That is one invasion, and then of course if the whole thing goes into the muscularis, then it's the second invasion, and that is how staging is done. So if the biopsy is fragmented, this thing disrupts, and then of course it produces a lot of problem. Another thing that you have to note in such biopsies are the lymphovascular invasions. So whether it's a lymphatic invasion or a vascular invasion in colorectal carcinomas, some papers stress on that also. Remember, as a pathologist, if you are calling something an invasion, please see very carefully that the tumor emboli needs to stick to the wall of the vessel. It should not be floating in this free space. Then only is it an actual invasion. Otherwise, sometimes sectioning, etc. can also cause the tumor to look as if it's inside the vessel. In a lot of tumors, the intratumoral invasion is not as important as where it is at the periphery of the tumor. In colorectal carcinomas, we label it whether even when it's inside the actual tumor mass. So supposing this is the entire tumor mass, one focus of LVI is here and one focus is here. So in some tumors, this is more important. But for colorectals, this is also important. Okay. And then of course they say you need to differentiate between LI because lymphatic spread ka route kuch aur hota hai, as well as the VI. And you do podoplanin, D240, CD34 as endothelium markers to check whether it's a lymphatic. D240 agar positive aata hai is lining mein, then it's a lymphatic. And if the CD34 comes positive, then it is a vessel, a blood vessel, rather than a lymphatic. And then you label that also. Okay. A lot of people follow the RC-Path data set to report a colonic biopsy from a colorectal cancer. Some people follow the CAP. So right now today what I'm telling you is just some general points. And then see, sometimes you get these kind of lesions and you were expecting a colonic biopsy where if you can make out they are blue spindly cells and then there something looks like a capsule. So the large intestine has a lot of IMTs and fibroid polyps. And then of course you can use IHC like Vimentin, etc. to SM, etc. to see what it is. So when you see a biopsy with a lot of spindle cells in it, and they're saying it is colonic, and there's ATPR, don't get scared. It can be a mesenchymal benign lesion in the colon itself, or it can be improper biopsy from not the exact colonic location also. So in such cases, go back to the endoscopic findings, go back to the, and maybe ask for a repeat biopsy if nothing is matching. If there's no mass, if there's nothing, then it cannot be an IMT. It cannot be a fibroid polyp. Then the site of biopsy was not correct. Sometimes you'll just get a serosa with fat and they'll think it is the colon. Although the biopsy is colonoscopic. Fine. Uh, that means either the tissue was divided into two, sent somewhere else, and you got the remnant, or the biopsy was not taken properly. They say that if a biopsy and that is more for endometrium, that they say that why I'm mixing these two things is because once you read biopsy interpretations तो वो parallel चलते हैं. अभी आपने कोलोनिक पढ़ा, फिर गट पढ़ोगे, फिर एंडोमेट्रियम, तो आपको ना हर बायोप्सी के कुछ कुछ पॉइंट्स याद रह जाते हैं. अब जैसे यहाँ हम मसल इन्वेजन एंड ऑल दैट की बात कर रहे हैं, आई एम गोना टेक दैट लेटर ऑन ऑल्सो. सो अगर मैं सिंस इज माय लास्ट स्लाइड, तो अगर मैं एंडोमेट्रियल बायोप्सीज की बात करूं, वहां पे दे से इफ यू वांटेड टू टारगेट द एंडोमेट्रियम एंड यू हैव पिक्ड आउट द मायोमेट्रियम, देन दैट्स बैड, बिकॉज यू हैव टेकन अ वेरी वेरी डीप बायोप्सी, और हो सकता है उस पॉइंट पे हीलिंग ठीक ना हो तो रप्चर हो जाए. So these are certain points that you need to be careful about. But so today was not exactly for particular diseases. I just wanted to take a small session on when you get a colonic, just a colonic biopsy, what are the points that दिमाग में होने चाहिए before you start looking at it. Next time I'll be discussing IBDs, allergic gastroenteritis, etc. And I'll be telling you different diagnostic points for that. And after that, pre-malignant and malignant lesions like polyp, adenomas, IBD-induced adenomas, flat adenomas, then colorectal carcinomas, then the IHC interpretation, that I'll do the next time. Today was just a general, like a wave of information for you. So I hope you like it, and I'm going to see you next time.